The sun was sliding toward the horizon, turning the wide desert highway a warm orange. The air shimmered with heat, and long shadows reached across the empty road. A single hover car moved along the quiet stretch, its sleek body cutting through the hot wind. Inside it sat Rian, a well-known billionaire in the world of technology. Many people knew his company for building advanced engines and research tools for deep space travel. Even with all his success, Rian loved to drive alone when he needed a break from numbers, meetings, and bright screens. Today was one of those days. The trip was supposed to clear his mind. He wanted a simple ride with a clear sky and no noise from the city. For a while, everything went exactly as he expected. He watched the horizon stretch far ahead and felt a rare calm settle inside him. But that peaceful feeling did not last long. Without warning, his hover car made a sharp crackling sound. The control panel flickered. A small vibration ran through the frame. Rian frowned and tapped the side screen, thinking it was just a loose sensor. Then the vehicle jerked, slowed, and began to descend toward the ground. A beam of dust shot upward as the car landed on the road and powered down. The lights faded out one by one. Rian leaned back in disbelief. He was the owner of the company that designed these engines. They were supposed to be among the most reliable systems in the world. The hover car he was driving had passed every test. It had never failed before, and yet here he was. Stranded on a long, empty road with no town visible in either direction, he stepped out and felt the desert heat wash over him. The wind carried small grains of sand that brushed against his clothes. He took a slow breath and tried to stay calm. There was no signal on his wrist device. No sound of any other vehicle. No nearby buildings. Nothing but sky, sand. In the silent road, Rian walked around the hover car and opened a side panel, hoping to find the problem quickly. He checked the power cell. It looked normal. The wiring looked normal too. The engine did not show any signs of overheating. There was no burnt smell, no loose parts, no visible cracks. The only strange thing was a faint mark near the power core. A thin line that looked like the trail of a small spark. He had seen a mark like this once before. During a secret test project that studied unusual energy patterns found near asteroid fields, that project had never been shown to the public. Only a group of select engineers knew about it. Rian stood still for a moment, staring at the mark. It worried him, but he pushed the thought aside. He did not want to assume anything without proper tools. He closed the panel and wiped dust from his hands. The sun was dropping lower and the wind was getting cooler. Rian realized he could be stuck here for hours or even through the night. The desert was calm, but the idea of staying out alone did not feel pleasant. Time passed slowly. Rian walked a bit up the road and then back again. He kept checking his device, but the signal did not return. He began to feel a mix of frustration and helplessness. He was used to having resources available at all times. He had teams, labs, and networks ready to solve problems. But here, none of that mattered. He was simply a man stranded beside his own machine. Then, in the distance, he heard something. At first it was a faint hum, almost like a deep breeze. As it grew louder, he turned toward the sound. A small truck was moving along the road. It was old, built from metal plates that had seen many years of use. The front lights were slightly dim but steady. The engine made a soft rumble as it approached. Rian stepped forward and waved. The truck slowed and stopped beside the hover car. The door opened and a woman stepped out. She wore a simple jacket, work gloves, and goggles pushed up on her head. Her clothes had traces of oil and dust, showing she worked with machines often. Her face carried a calm expression, and her voice was steady when she spoke. "You need help, Rian?" Nodded at once. "My car stopped working. I do not know why. There is no signal here. I have been waiting for someone to pass by." The woman looked at the hover car with interest. She walked around it slowly, checking its shape and parts. She crouched near the back and nodded as if confirming some thought in her mind. "I am Mira. I run a small workshop near the next town. I can tow your car there if you want. I have tools to check a tree and felt relief. Thank you." "I appreciate it." Mira did not seem to recognize him. She treated him like any other traveler. That surprised Rian a little because most people reacted differently when they realized who he was. But Mira simply focused on the machine. She brought out a towing brace from her truck and attached it to the hover car with practiced hands. Her movements showed confidence and skill. Rian watched with curiosity. He did not expect someone in a remote area to know how to handle modern hover systems. Once the tow line was set, Mira climbed into her truck. Rian got into the passenger seat. The truck began moving slowly, pulling the hover car behind it. The ride was bumpy, but steady. The quiet hum of the engine filled the small cabin. For a while, neither of them spoke. Rian was still thinking about the strange mark on the power core. Mira focused on the road, guiding the truck with calm hands. He noticed she seemed comfortable driving in the desert. She knew each turn and each rough patch of road. After some time, she spoke in a soft voice. "You are lucky I was heading this way." "Not many people use this road," Rian nodded. "I can see that. Do you always help travelers if? I see someone stranded, yes?" "Machines break. People need support. That is how it is in this area." Arian looked at her with interest. She spoke with honest simplicity, something he did not hear often in his world. His company dealt with massive contracts, political talks, and complicated rules. People he met usually wanted something from him. Mira, on the other hand, seemed to expect nothing at all. They reached her workshop as the sky turned a deeper shade of orange. The building was made from old starship panels and metal sheets. Around it were stacks of repaired parts, tool crates, and small devices. The place looked simple from the outside, but it carried a clear sense of purpose. It was the kind of place built by someone who loved to create and fix things. Myra parked the truck and lowered the tow brace. She guided the hover car into an open space inside the workshop. Rian stepped out and looked around. The interior was filled with tools, half-built machines, and shelves of neatly arranged components. There were old engine models, handmade gadgets, and small devices he had never seen before. Mira walked to a workbench and pulled out a diagnostic reader created from recycled parts. She connected it to the hover car and started scanning. The screen glowed softly, showing lines of data. Rian was impressed. "Where did you get this tool? I built it myself. Buying new equipment is expensive." "Building one teaches me more." Rian watched her work. She moved with steady focus, tapping buttons and adjusting small wires. Her calm nature held the room together. After a few minutes, she pointed at the screen. "The energy pattern near the power core is strange. It is not normal engine failure. Something external caused this." Rian felt a quiet chill. He recognized that pattern. It matched the same unusual energy signature from the secret project his company once studied. He did not say anything yet. He wanted to understand more before speaking. Mira continued writing notes on a small pad. "I will run a deeper check. If this is what I think it is, the solution might take time, but do not worry. I can fix it." Rian stood there, feeling a mix of gratitude and confusion. He did not expect someone in a remote workshop to notice such a precise detail. He also felt a strange comfort standing here. Myra's presence was steady, patient, and honest. It reminded him of something he had forgotten in his world of large buildings and high-pressure decisions. He glanced outside. The sky was turning purple. The first stars were appearing. The desert was becoming quiet again. For the first time in a long while, Rian felt something unexpected. He felt safe, and he had no idea that this simple meeting on a lonely highway would change both their lives in ways neither of them could predict. Night settled over the desert like a calm blanket. The faint sound of wind brushed across the metal walls of Mira's workshop. Inside, warm light from small lamps filled the room and pushed away the shadows. The hover car stood in the center, silent and lifeless, while Mira moved around it with focused steps. Rian watched her with growing curiosity. Mira removed her gloves and placed them on a table. She checked the diagnostic screen again, then walked to the shelf to grab a set of tools. Her movements were steady and patient. Every tool had its own place. Every part of the workshop had meaning. Rian sat on a small stool near the wall. He still wore the dust of the desert on his jacket, but he did not care about his appearance right now. He was too busy watching Mira. She did not work like any mechanic he had seen before. She took her time, studied each detail, treated the machine like a puzzle waiting to be solved. Her workshop was small, but it held more knowledge than many larger facilities Rian had visited. Strange machines rested on shelves. Small engines made from recycled panels lined the walls. There were boxes filled with old circuit boards, coils, power cells, and long metal rods carefully arranged. Even though the place looked simple, Rian felt he was standing in a hidden treasure of ideas. The only sound in the room was the quiet hum of Mira's reader and the clicking of her tools. After some minutes, Mira spoke without looking up. "The energy mark I found on the power core is not normal. It has a clear pattern. Something created that pattern. Machines do not form it on their own." Ian leaned forward slightly. "What kind of patterns? Something like a focused pulse. Maybe something passed near the car or scanned it." "I need to run more tests." Sriyan nodded slowly. He knew she was right. The mark matched the same unusual signature from his company's classified research. Only a few people in the world knew about that pattern. That made the situation even more unsettling. Myra placed a new device beside the hover car. It looked like a small metal box with coils and wires sticking out from the top. She pressed a switch. A thin line of blue light moved around the car's frame, scanning it. The light revealed faint lines on the surface that normal eyes could not see there. Mira pointed. "These marks show a controlled energy touch. Something scanned this car before it shut down." Rian watched the lines appear and fade. He felt a quiet tension in his chest. His mind moved through possibilities. Who would scan his vehicle on a desert road? Why would they do it? How did they know where he was going? He did not share these thoughts yet. Mira had helped him without asking anything. He did not want to place his worries on her too soon. Mira sat on a stool and wrote on her pad. She looked calm, but thoughtful. Finally, she turned toward him. "This is not normal trouble. There is something behind it. I have seen strange signals before, but not like this one." Rian raised an eyebrow. "You have seen something like this? Yes? Sometimes near old starship crash sites. Sometimes from small drones flying at night. I do not know what they are, but their patterns are sharp. Like someone is looking for something." Her words made Rian's shoulders stiffen. He looked around the workshop again. The walls, the shelves, the quiet hum of idle machines. It all felt peaceful, yet the topic in front of them was far from simple. He asked her, "Why do you work here in such a quiet place when you have skills like this? You could work in a city lab." Mira gave a small smile. Not a shy smile, but one that came from understanding herself. "Cities are loud. There is too much rush. Too much need to follow rules of big companies. I prefer to work here. I build what I want. I fix what I want. And I help people without asking for things in return." Rian did not speak. Mira continued. "Many travelers pass through this desert. Some lose direction. Some lose their machines. I have tools and I have knowledge. Helping them is simple for Marion." Watched her with interest. Her words were gentle but powerful. She lived with a sense of purpose he admired. In his world, everything was measured by profit, results, and deadlines. Here, things were measured by honesty, skill, and kindness. Mira stood and walked toward the back of the workshop. Rian followed her with his eyes. She opened a large metal box and lifted out a strange engine. It was small but heavy, with glowing lines across its frame. Rian stood up from the stool. "That engine looks advanced. Where did you find it, Mira? Set it on a table?" "It came from a crashed ship I found years ago in the South Desert. Nobody claimed it. I studied it and learned from it. It helped me improve my tools." Rian walked closer to the engine. He knew enough engineering to see that her model was not simple. It had unique shapes, metal textures, and layered patterns. "You built tools from this?" "Yes. I took small parts from it and tested different reactions. I learned new ways to channel energy and stabilize small machines. It changed everything for my workshop." And studied her face. Mira was not proud in a loud way. Her pride was quiet and steady. She loved learning. She loved building. And she did not chase fame or attention. That made her even more impressive. Rian returned to the hovercar. He placed a hand on its frame as Mira continued scanning it with her devices. He felt the cool metal under his fingers. The car had been his escape for the day, but now it was the source of a growing mystery. Mira spoke again, this time with a slightly deeper tone. Someone was tracking your car. I cannot say who or why, but the energy mark tells me this was not random. Ian looked at her firmly. You are right. This was not random. Someone is searching for something connected to me, and they use technology similar to something my company once studied. Mira paused. She did not look shocked. She only nodded slowly, as if she already expected something serious. Rian continued. Years ago, we tested strange energy signals found near asteroid fields. The patterns were strange and difficult to control. We did not understand their source. We stopped the project, but the data remained. Mira leaned back against the table. And someone else got hold of a tree inside, maybe? Or maybe they built their own version from stolen fragments? I cannot tell yet. The room grew quiet. The small lamps cast soft light over the metal walls. The wind outside moved dust across the ground with gentle noise. The workshop felt like a safe space, yet the truth behind the energy mark filled it with a new weight. Rian walked toward a shelf filled with handmade gadgets. He touched one of them lightly. A small drone shaped like a cube. It looked simple, but clever. Myra spoke in a calm voice. You do not have to tell me everything, but if something follows you, we need to understand it. My workshop is safe. You can stay here until we find the answer. Rian looked at her with surprise. You would let me stay even though you do not know who is following me as. You were stranded and I helped because that is what I do. Your name does not matter to me. Your problem is real, and machines do not lie. I will help you because the trouble is not your fault. Rian felt something warm in his chest. He was used to people who cared about his status first and his problems second. Mira was different. She cared about people and machines equally. She cared about doing the right thing. Mira left her stool and walked to the hovercar. She opened a small side panel and connected another device. Thin lines of purple energy appeared on the screen. This shows the path of the pulse. It was pointed exactly at your power core. That means whoever did this was searching for something inside the carry-in, placed a hand on his chin. They might be looking for the sample. Mira turned. Sample. Rian nodded slowly. Yes. I have a small sample of the strange energy stored in a secure container inside the car. I took it with me because I wanted to study it again in a calm place. I did not tell anyone where I was going, so I do not know how anyone knew. Mira took a deep breath. That means someone is watching you closely. Maybe even your movements. The thought made Rian uneasy. He had planned a simple, quiet drive. Nothing more. Now, he was facing something far deeper. Mira placed her hand on the hovercar's hood in a gesture of reassurance, almost as if she was calming a patient. Do not worry. We will find out who is behind this. But first, I need to make your car stable. Again, she walked to a shelf and grabbed a tool shaped like a long metal rod with glowing rings. Rian watched with interest as she placed it inside the engine chamber and adjusted the rings. A soft hum filled the room. This tool was made from parts of that old ship engine. It can detect hidden codes inside energy marks. Rian smiled gently. You created something like this alone? Yes. With time and patience, the device beeped softly. Mira looked at the screen and frowned slightly. There is more than one signal. 2 different sources scanned your car today. One was the direct pulse. The other was a shadow signal. Very weak, but still present. Someone else was watching from a distance. Rian felt the weight of her words. He sat down again and looked around the workshop. The lamps. The metal walls. The shelves. Everything felt peaceful, yet the truth was far from peaceful. Mira put down the tool and looked at him. You are safe here. I promise. I have ways to protect this place. Hurin believed her. He did not know why, but he trusted her. Mira folded her arms. Tomorrow, we will check the sample. For now, eat something and rest. You have had a long day. Rian nodded slowly. He felt tired, but also strangely at peace. He followed Mira toward a small side room with a table and a kettle. The smell of warm tea filled the air. The night grew darker outside, but inside the workshop a new partnership was forming. A strange one, unexpected and natural. Morning light slowly crept across the desert, bringing soft shades of gold into Mira's workshop. The metal panels glowed gently in the warm light. Dust in the air shimmered like tiny stars as a calm breeze passed through the open window. The night had been quiet, but the silence of dawn carried a strange tension, as if something waited on the edge of the horizon. Rian slept lightly on a small cot Myra had set up for him in her side room. His mind refused to rest fully. Images of the energy marks, the unknown pulse, and the secret sample filled his thoughts. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw faint glowing lines across the hovercar. He woke several times to check the window and listen for unexpected sounds. Only the desert wind answered. When he finally got up, the sun had risen halfway above the horizon. Mira was already awake, sitting at her workbench with a cup of tea. Her goggles rested on her forehead, and her hair was tied back with a strip of cloth to keep it out of her eyes. She looked calm and focused, even though the mystery surrounding. Rian's car still hung in the air. "Good morning," she said as she looked. Up from her notes, Rian nodded softly. "Morning, did. You sleep at Allah," little she replied in her usual quiet voice. "Machines do not fix themselves. And I wanted to check the hover car again." Rian walked to the center of the workshop where the car waited. Mira had placed several scanning devices around it. Thin blue lights blinked on and off like slow fireflies. Mira stood beside him. "I checked the sample compartment. It is safe for now." Nothing touched it during the night. Rian let out a breath of relief. "Thank you. We need to run a deeper scan on the sample," she continued. "After that, we can understand why two different signals scanned your car yesterday." Rian nodded. He trusted her skill completely now. Mira walked to a small metal box on her table and opened it carefully. Inside lay the sample container. It was a narrow cylinder made from reinforced crystal metal. Inside the cylinder, a tiny sphere of faint light floated quietly. The soft glow did not flicker. It held a steady, gentle brightness that looked peaceful but powerful at the same time. Rian stepped closer. "This is what started the old research. This energy does not match anything in our records. It moves in patterns that look alive." Mira held the cylinder closer to her lamp. She studied the faint glow without blinking. "I have never seen anything like this. It is beautiful, but strange. And I understand why someone might try to take a tree." And looked at her. "Do you think they know what it can do, maybe? Or maybe they only know it has value. Some people chase things they do not understand," she said. She placed the cylinder back in the box and closed it gently. "Before we test it," she continued, "I want to try something. When your car shut down, the energy mark had a curve pattern. That means the attack came from above, not from the ground." Raised an eyebrow. "Above, yes. Something must have been in the sky." Something silent and fast. Rian felt a cold shiver run through him. He looked toward the workshop door, as if expecting something to appear right then. Myra seemed to sense his worry and spoke calmly. "Do not be afraid. We will find answers today." Just then, a faint vibration ran through the ground. It was soft, but noticeable, like the distant tremble of machinery. Mira paused and listened. Rian stepped back, his eyes narrowing. "Did you feel that?" he asked. Mira nodded. "Something heavy is moving. Not on the road." Above, she walked outside with steady steps. Rian followed her. The moment they stepped into the open air, they felt the change. The sky looked clear, but the wind carried a low hum. It was not natural. It was controlled, careful, and purposeful. Mira lifted her hand over her eyes and looked upward. At first, there was nothing. The vast desert stretched around them in calm silence. Then the hum grew louder, and a shape appeared in the sky. A triangular craft floated above the workshop, moving with slow precision. Its metal surface reflected the sunlight in sharp lines. The edges were smooth, and its underbody held faint glowing strips. It did not look like a normal drone. It looked advanced, built for scanning and recovery. The air around it pulsed with soft pressure. Rian felt his heart pound. "That is not one of ours." Mira's voice was steady but firm. "I have seen shapes like this only at night." "I never thought one would come so close." The drone tilted slightly and began to descend. A beam of white light shot downward and scanned the area. It passed over Mira's workshop, the yard outside, and the ground near the hover car. When the beam reached the workshop roof, it paused. Rian felt his breath freeze. They found the car. Myra stepped back inside quickly. "Get inside," she said. "Move away from the doors." Rian followed her. She shut the door behind them and ran to a small cabinet. She opened it and pulled out a shield device she had built from the old ship engine. It was shaped like a flat metal disc with coils along the sides. Rian watched her in surprise. "You have a shield device here," Myra nodded, while setting it on the floor. "I made it for storms and stray machines. It might help us now." She pressed a switch. A soft wave moved outward from the disc. The workshop walls hummed as a faint invisible field spread through the structure. The drone outside made a louder sound. Something heavy struck the roof. The metal plates shook. Tools on shelves rattled softly. Rian looked up in concern. "Will the shield hold?" Myra tightened a bolt on the device. "For a while, but not forever. If the drone came for the sample, it will not leave until it finds it." Rian felt his chest tighten. He had brought the sample with him, thinking it was safe. He never expected danger to follow him to a quiet desert workshop. The lights flickered as the drone scanned the building again. A deep sound echoed across the interior, like a slow pulse pressing against the shield. Mira walked to her desk and opened a drawer. She pulled out a small handheld launcher. It was not a weapon. It was a tool she used to send energy bursts into the sky to test weather signals. Rian looked at it. "What will that do? It can distract the drone," she replied. "If I hit its scanner, it might lose focus long enough for us to prepare a counteraction." Rian moved closer. "Let me help." Mira shook her head. "You stay here. If it targets us, I want you near the shield." "I will step out for only a moment." Rian wanted to argue, but he saw the resolve in her eyes. She was brave, calm, and determined. He trusted her more than he trusted the machines outside. Mira took a breath and opened the side door only halfway. The drone hovered above, scanning the roof. Dust swirled around it. Mira raised the launcher, aimed at the drone's side panel, pressed the trigger. A bright burst of energy shot into the air. It hit the drone's panel with a soft spark. The craft jerked slightly. The scanning beam flickered, and then shifted away from the workshop. Mira closed the door quickly. It worked, but not for long. Ron walked to the table and grabbed a small device with a screen. He recognized it from Myra's shelf. It was a code DISRUPTOR. Mira looked at him. "Do you know how to use that?" Rian nodded. "My company used something similar for field tests. If we can match the drone's frequency, we can force a reset. It will shut down for a few minutes." Mira hurried to her workbench and connected her reader to the disruptor. Lines of data appeared on the screen. "This is its frequency signature," she said. "Fast and sharp. But we can match it." The drone outside made another heavy sound as it descended lower. The roof vibrated. Mira and Rian worked quickly, typing commands and adjusting the device. Rian tapped the last sequence. "It is ready, but we need to send it close." To the drone, Myra grabbed a climbing rod from the corner. "Then we climb to the roof." Rian stared at her. "You want to climb?" "No," she nodded calmly. "Yes. We do not have much time." They moved to the back of the workshop where a ladder led to the roof. Mira climbed first, quick and sure. Rian followed her carefully. When they reached the top, the wind blew hard against their faces. The drone hovered only a short distance away. Its shadow fell over the sand like a dark triangle. Mira handed Rian the disruptor. "You send the signal when I give the word." She stepped forward and waved her tool to draw the drone's attention. The drone turned its scanner toward her. Lines of white light moved across the roof. "Now," she shouted. Rian pressed the button. Sharp pulse shot from the disruptor. The signal hit the drone. It flickered. The humming sound dropped in pitch. The craft shook once, then its light faded. It began to fall slowly toward the ground and crashed into the sand with a heavy thud. Silence filled the desert. Rian took a long breath. Mira looked at him with calm eyes and a small hint of pride. "You did it," she said. "We did it," he replied. They climbed back down into the workshop. The air felt different now. The sense of danger had changed into a strange calm. The drone was down, but the mystery behind it was far from over. Mira closed the door and looked at Rian. "Someone will come looking for that drone," she said. "We do not have much time. Tomorrow, we check the sample. Tonight, we prepare." Rian nodded slowly. He felt tired, but stronger. He was no longer alone, and Mira was no longer just a mechanic. She was part of the fight now. The next morning came with a soft sky and calm weather. The sun rose slowly over the town, casting warm light across the quiet roads. Farid woke early, long before most people. He sat on the small steps outside his workshop with a cup of simple tea in his hand. His eyes looked across the road, but his thoughts were far away. He kept thinking about what happened yesterday, about how the billionaire named Rian had tried to thank him with money. But Farid had refused. Farid believed helping others came from the heart. He believed that kindness should not have a price. But even while he felt proud of his choice, he also felt uncertain. The workshop needed repairs. New tools were expensive. Work was slow these days. The thought of money pulled at him, whispering questions in his mind. He tried to ignore them. Meanwhile, in a bright hotel room on the wealthy side of the town, Rian stood near a large window that looked over green fields. He wore clothes that cost more than most people's entire wardrobe. Still, he did not feel proud or powerful today. He felt thoughtful, almost unsure. He spent the entire night thinking about Farid. He kept replaying the moment when Farid refused the money. No one had ever done that before. Rian had grown up in a world where respect came easily because of his wealth. People tried to impress him. They tried to flatter him. They tried to stand close to him for their own benefit. But Farid did none of these things. Farid helped him without asking for anything. Farid treated him like a normal man. It confused Rian, but it also comforted him in a way he had not felt in many years. He wanted to see Farid again. He wanted to understand him better. He wanted to learn why someone with so little could have such strong values. He wanted to know what shaped that kind of heart. So, after breakfast, Rian left the hotel in a clean black car and headed back toward the dusty highway where everything began. Farid was adjusting a small engine on a table when he heard a vehicle stop outside the workshop. He looked up and recognized the car immediately. His eyebrows rose a little. He put down his tools and walked to the door. Rian stepped out of the car with a calm smile on his face. Farid folded his arms. "You came back," Rian nodded. "I did, yes. I hope it is not a problem." Farid shook his head. "No problem, but I thought you left for the city. You looked busier and smiled slightly." But I kept thinking about you, about everything that happened." Farid did not know how to respond. So he simply waited. Rian continued. "Yesterday you helped me in a small moment, but I feel it was more than that. You treated me like a real person, not like someone who owns a company. You refused money even though your workshop needs repairs." Farid looked away for a moment. "The workshop always needs something. Money comes and goes, that is life. If we help each other only for benefit, then the world becomes very cold. I try not to live like that." Rian listened quietly. He admired the way Farid spoke. Simple words but filled with meaning. "May I come inside?" Rian asked. Farid nodded. Of course, come in. The workshop smelled of metal, oil, and warm sunlight. Tools hung on wooden walls. Some were old and worn. Others were new but few. The place was small but tidy. Every item had a purpose. It reflected Farid's life perfectly. Simple, honest, hard-working. Rian walked slowly, looking around with interest. "You do all repairs alone?" Farid nodded. "Yes, I enjoy the work and I like to be my own boss. And it must be peaceful," Rian said. Sometimes Farid replied with a soft smile. "Sometimes it is very quiet." Rian understood. Too much quiet could feel heavy. Too much loneliness could feel like a weight. He turned to Ward. Fareed, I want to ask you something if that is. Okay, Fareed said. Yesterday when I asked how to thank, you told me simply to treat people. Well, it is good advice, but I also want to help you in some real way, something practical. Something that shows my respect. Fareed shook his head gently. You already said thank you, that is enough, and stepped closer. Please let me finish. I am not trying to change your values. I only want to support the kind of man you are. Fareed felt slightly uncomfortable. No one ever spoke to him like this. Most people saw him as a simple mechanic. No one tried to understand him deeply. No one looked at his spirit like it mattered. Rian continued. What if I told you that kindness like yours taught me something important, something I forgot long ago? Fareed raised a brow. And what is that? Trian looked around the workshop. That wealth means nothing if the heart is empty, and respect cannot be bought. It must be earned. Fareed was silent. Rian's words were honest, not forced. To break the moment, Ford walked toward the engine on the table. He placed his hands on the metal surface. This engine belonged to a traveler. It stopped working in the middle of the night. They called me this morning. They need it by evening. I watched him work, noticing how carefully he handled each part. The billionaire was used to boardrooms, meetings, contracts, numbers. But watching Fareed reminded him of something he felt missing in his own life. Real purpose. Real connection. Can I help, Rian? Asked suddenly. Fareed blinked. Help? Rian smiled lightly. Yes. But I warn you, I have no skill in this. I do not want to break anything. Fareed could not help but laugh softly. You want to help in the workshop if you allow me, Rian said. Fareed thought for a moment. Then he nodded. All right, you can pass me the tools, I tell you. Rian nodded eagerly. It would be my honor. For the next hour, the billionaire and the mechanic stood side by side. Fareed tightened bolts, while Rian handed him tools. Sometimes Rian handed the wrong one. Sometimes he asked questions. Sometimes he simply watched. But throughout the time, there was no barrier between them. Two men from two different worlds worked on a single engine together. The air felt warm and real. Fareed noticed something interesting. Rian was trying very hard. Not because he needed to learn, but because he wanted to understand Fareed's world. That gesture touched Fareed more than any amount of money could. When the engine finally started, a loud, steady sound filled the workshop. Fareed smiled with satisfaction. That is the sound of good work, he said proudly. Rian clapped his hands once with excitement. We did it well, mostly you, but I helped a little. Fareed chuckled. Yes, you helped. They stood in silence for a moment, listening to the engine. Then Rian took a slow breath and said something unexpected. Frida, I want to make you an offer, not for money, not for buying your help, but for giving you a chance to grow. Fareed straightened his posture. What kind of offer? Rian spoke carefully. I want to expand my company into a new project, project that supports small towns and real workers. I want to create a program that brings better tools and better opportunities to places like this. You know this town. You know the people. You understand their needs better than I ever could. I want you to be part of this project to help guide it. Fareed stared at him. Shock filled his eyes. You want me to work with your company? Me Wibby, 'cause you see people with honest eyes, Rian said, and because people trust you. I need someone who knows the value of kindness, someone who can help build something human, not just wealthy. Fareed did not know what to say. His heart raced. His mind filled with doubt. I am just a mechanic, Fareed whispered. I do not know big business. I do not wear suits. I do not speak in meetings. Shook his head firmly. That is exactly why I want you. People like you keep the world balanced. You understand what really matters. You are not afraid of simple work. You are not afraid of truth. Felt the weight of the moment. He had never imagined such a path for himself. He looked at his workshop, at the tools he used every day, at the life he had built slowly and quietly. The idea of stepping into a new world felt huge, almost too big to hold. I need time to think, he said gently. Of course, Rian replied. Take all the time you need before leaving. Rian placed something on a small table near the door. It was not money. It was a simple card with his phone number written by hand. "Call me when your heart is ready," Rian said. Then he left the workshop, leaving Farid standing in the middle of the room with the engine humming in the background. Farid looked at the card for a long time. His hands trembled slightly. Opportunity had walked into his life in a way he never expected. He wondered how one moment on a lonely highway could change the course of two lives so deeply. He wondered what choice he should make now. One thing was clear. The kindness he showed Rian had returned to him in a way he could never have imagined. Farid did not sleep well that night. His mind was full of thoughts that refused to rest. He stood near the small window in his house and looked outside at the quiet street. The moonlight made everything appear soft and still, but inside his heart, everything felt loud. He kept remembering the moment when Rian offered him a place in the new project. It was not an ordinary offer. It was a life-changing opportunity, a chance that most people in small towns never received, a chance to help others, a chance to grow, a chance to step into a world far bigger than the four walls of his workshop. But Farid also felt fear. He worried that he would not fit in. He worried that he was not educated enough for big company decisions. He worried that people would laugh or judge him. He worried about leaving behind the simple life he understood so well. A life where he fixed engines and helped travelers on the highway. He took a long breath and sat down on the edge of his bed. The room was quiet. The air felt still. He closed his eyes and tried to listen to his heart. There were two voices inside him. One said he should stay where he was comfortable. The other said he should be brave. Morning arrived slowly. The first light of day spread across the sky. Birds began to sing outside. Farid stood up with tired eyes but a determined spirit. He washed his face and stepped outside. He walked toward the workshop but stopped at the door. Everything looked the same. The tools, the wooden counter, the small chair, the smell of oil, the sound of the highway in the distance. Nothing had changed outside. But inside him, something was shifting. Farid opened the workshop and began his day as usual. He checked the engines. He arranged the tools. He cleaned the floor. But his hands felt slower. His mind kept drifting back to Rian's offer. By late morning, a young traveler arrived on a motorcycle that made a loud rattling sound. The young man looked tired and worried. "Sir, the engine is making noise. Can you help me?" he asked. Farid smiled gently. "Yes, bring it inside." He worked on the motorcycle with practiced skill. His hands moved with calm confidence. The young traveler watched in quiet admiration. "Sir, you fix things so fast," the traveler said. Farid chuckled. "When you work many years, your hands learn the way." When the engine was repaired, the traveler thanked him warmly. Farid accepted a small payment and wished him safe travels as the traveler rode away. Farid stood in the doorway and watched the motorcycle disappear down the long road. He felt something stir inside him again. He loved helping others, whether rich or poor, known or unknown. But Rian's offer would let him help many more people than he could reach alone in this workshop. He finally went inside, sat down at the old table, and looked at the small card Rian left behind. The simple handwritten number felt heavy in his hand. He held it for a long moment before putting it in his pocket. Farid locked the workshop and walked home. He sat at his table with a cup of tea and placed the phone in front of him. The steam from the cup curled upward as he stared at the screen. Then he pressed the number. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then he heard Rian's voice. "Farid. Thank you for calling. I hoped you would." Farid swallowed. "I thought about your offer. I thought all night. And what does your heart say now?" Rian asked gently. Farid took a deep breath. "My heart says I should try, but I am worried I am not perfect for this position. I do not know office rules. I do not know business language." Rian replied in a calm and steady voice. "Perfection is not what I want. What I want is your honesty, your values, your courage. You can learn anything else. You already have the most important qualities." Farid closed his eyes for a moment. Then he nodded to himself. "I will join your project, but I want to keep helping people. Not for show, not for fame. I want it to stay Riarian," smiled through the phone. That is exactly why you are the right person, felt a wave of relief and nervous excitement. So what should I do now? Come to the city tomorrow? I will send a car, you will meet the team, you will see the project plan, and we will take each step together. You will not be alone in this. Ian thanked him and ended the call. He sat in silence for a moment. Then he stood up and looked around his simple house. Life was about to change. The next morning, a clean black car arrived outside his house. Farid wore his best clothes. They were simple but neat. When he stepped outside, the driver greeted him respectfully. Farid sat in the back seat, feeling both nervous and proud. The ride to the city took a few hours. Farid looked out the window as wide buildings and busy streets came into view. Everything felt bigger and faster. People walked quickly. Cars moved with loud honking. The noise was constant. The energy was strong. Farid felt small but determined. The car stopped in front of a tall glass building that looked like it reached the sky. Rian was waiting at the entrance with a warm smile. "Welcome, Farid. I am happy you are here," he said. They entered the building together. The inside was bright and modern, with clean floors and shining lights. People walked around holding folders and laptops. Some looked curious when they saw Farid, but no one judged him. Instead, they greeted him with friendly smiles because Rian had already spoken about him. Rian guided him to a large meeting room where a few team members waited. They introduced themselves politely. Farid tried to remember their names. They explained the project details. The project aimed to support small towns by giving workshops, better tools, better training, and better resources. It also aimed to bring fair opportunities to hardworking mechanics, farmers, drivers, and small business owners. One of the team members said, "We want someone who understands real towns and real people, someone who can tell us what communities." Truly, Nidrian placed a hand on Frid's shoulder. "This is the man who can guide us." Frid felt shy but pleased. He sat with the team and listened carefully. He shared ideas when they asked for his thoughts. They wrote down his suggestions with respect. For the first time in his life, Farid felt his voice carried real value in a big room. He felt seen. After the meeting, Rian showed him around the building. Farid learned about different departments. He learned how decisions were made. He learned how projects were planned. Everything was new but exciting. He did not understand everything yet, but he was ready to learn. Later, they went to a quiet rooftop where a gentle breeze moved through the air. The city stretched out far below them. Rian looked at Farid with a hopeful smile. "How do you feel about this new world?" Farid looked around at the tall buildings, the busy streets, and the endless movement. "It is big, it is different, but it feels like something important. It feels like a path that can help many people." Yen nodded. "You will do great, I believe in you, and I want you to know something. Your kindness changed me. I want to be a better man, better leader, a better human because of you," Farid felt humbled by the words. "And your trust changed me too. I never imagined a man like me could stand in a place like this, or have a voice here." Urian smiled softly. "Sometimes one kind act on an empty highway can change to lives forever." He turned to his town that evening with a new sense of purpose. He looked at his workshop and did not feel sadness. Instead, he felt strength. The workshop would remain part of him always. But now he had a larger mission. In the following weeks, Farid traveled between the town and the city. He met community leaders. He visited small businesses. He listened to their needs. He carried their stories back to the company. The project started to grow faster than expected. People respected him. They trusted him. They saw him as a bridge between two worlds, and Rian kept his promise. He treated people with kindness and fairness. He listened more. He learned more. He changed his leadership style to match the values he learned from Farid. One evening, when the project was ready to launch, Farid stood beside Rian on a small stage in front of a group of workers from different towns. The air was filled with hope. Rian spoke first. "This project would not exist without Farid," he said. "His heart showed us the right path. He reminded us that every life has value." Farid stepped forward. His voice was calm and steady. "I am just a simple man, but I believe that kindness is not small. Kindness can build roads and open doors. Kindness can change lives. We stand here today because one moment on a lonely highway, connected to people from different worlds, now we carry that connection forward to help many more. The crowd clapped with warm energy. Some smiled with pride. Others nodded with respect. At that moment, Farid realized something important. He had not left his simple life behind. He had carried it with him into the new world. His values remained the same. His heart remained the same, and that was enough. Later, when the stage lights dimmed and people began to leave, Rian walked beside him. "You did something great today, Farid," he said. Farid smiled. "We did it together," Ian nodded. Yes, together they stood quietly for a moment. Under the open sky, a billionaire who once stood helpless on a lonely highway and a mechanic whose kindness changed both their lives forever. Their journey was proof that the world could change with simple honesty, that hearts could meet in unexpected places, that kindness had power beyond measure.